Hello, everybody. In this video, I thought I'd talk about laughter. And basically, the reason why I thought of this is because I was having this class, right? And like everything, I guess, was kind of not tense, but it wasn't like flowing. And then all of a sudden, I made a joke, but the joke wasn't even like planned, like it was just spontaneous. And everybody started laughing. And I noticed how things just kind of like eased up. There was like less tension. You felt like less tension. And I remember this thing. I don't know if I've spoken about this. I don't think I have in my videos. But I used to know that, or I know that people used to think about laughter as being like for crazy people. Like if you laughed, you were considered crazy, basically. And I did a little bit of digging, asked ChatGPT and asked about this, and it told me that like the Greeks, like the philosophers, used to think of laughter as something that would lead to irrationality, and it was chaotic, right? So it wasn't something that a person that was very like serious or sophisticated would do. Laughter was kind of like a thing of crazy people. And we can kind of think about this when people laugh, like in movies, right? Like the villain will laugh maniacally, right? And that's like, okay, so the villain is laughing, the villain is crazy, right? The villain is bad, the villain is irrational, right? And also how like in the medieval times, the same thing, right? Like the scholars, the religious scholars, which I guess a lot of the education that we get nowadays comes from those times, right? Comes from the medieval times where, basically with the Inquisition and things like that, things were drastic during those times. So if you laughed, you were basically considered like, you weren't only considered like irrational, you were probably disciplined, right? So you couldn't do that. Um, and it's funny because nowadays it's something that is even necessary, right? Like people say, icebreakers at the beginning of presentations or classes, right? In professional settings like jobs or schools, people are, it is suggested that people must make others laugh to ease the tension, right? Because there's so much tension, there's so much hostility, I call it. Um, so psychologically, why do people nowadays have to laugh? Why is that like a mandate? Like you have to make people laugh. Like let's say you're a presenter or you're giving a presentation or you're a teacher and you have a class, you have to make the crowd, the students laugh. So to build that, I also did a little bit of digging on here, and it said make to create like a bond, to seem more human, less rigid, like world leaders, right? Like let's say there's a world leader giving a speech, and the world leader will crack a joke, make a joke about something, and the audience laughs, and it's kind of like, okay, easing the tension. And this is because they're in positions of authority, right? So yeah, since historically and before modern times, it was considered a sign of madness. Now it's even, I can't really find the word. It's on the tip of my tongue, but now it is uh, like people are motivated to do it, right? It is, like I said, it is suggested. I can't find the word if I remember the word, but yeah, like in Spanish it's alentados, like son alentados. They're basically pushed to do this, like in schools or jobs. And it seems that people are always striving for this at the beginning of things, right? Now, this contrasts a lot with my personality because, I mean, I can be funny, I can laugh, I can laugh when someone makes a joke, but I don't expect it, right? Like if I'm in a professional setting or if I'm at school or wherever, I'm there to do what I need to do, right? I'm not there to, break the ice or laugh or, so all of this for me seems like the ancient times, like irrational. It still seems irrational, but supposedly there's scientific evidence and scientific data to back this up, where they say, when you laugh, you become less stressed, you relax, right? It helps human interaction and human connection and socialization, which ultimately leads to development, growing, learning, right? And it's kind of like, well, does it really? Because, people are learning nowadays, but think about the ancient times. Like, people had been doing that for hundreds of years, not laughing and taking things seriously. And I think they were really learning things. And now I don't think they're really learning things. I think like as society, we're just sick. We're anxious. We're mentally sick. And we just look for these outlets of like discharge, like let's laugh, let's play, let's have fun, let's make this more dynamic, let's make this a game, because we're all just so like sick, we're anxious, we're depressed or whatever. So we need, even in professional or formal settings, we need them to be like more relaxed. And throughout, I would say just recently, throughout these last like 20 years, this has been happening. Because when I was growing up, this wasn't really a thing. It wasn't really like, you got to get people to laugh, you got to get people to bond, consider the emotional side of things. And it's good to do that. But I think it's also being overdone, right? That's just basically my point here. So, why do people do this? Laughter or implement laughter in formal settings. And I'm strictly speaking about formal settings, not with your friends or with your family, because those are completely different things. Even though I think in ancient times that was still not allowed, even if you were with friends and things like that, right? But nowadays, yeah, if you're with friends or whatever, I don't care. But in professional settings, my problem is with, schools, with work, with, public settings, public professional formal settings. So supposedly this is done, like I mentioned, for connection, for bonding. So this kind of makes me think of like, okay, you're gonna connect or bond through madness, right? Through irrationality. I don't know. I guess that makes sense. Maybe that's a way of actually reconnecting with our old way of being, that irrational, instinctive, primitive way of being, right? Where we connect through others because everything is so like uptight. Maybe there's that other argument, right? And it says that laughter favors social interaction. So, social interaction, as we've seen lately in education, psychology, pedagogy, is central to development and learning. Why? Because when you learn something, you basically need to associate it to different things, right? So you can do this by yourself if you're very well disciplined, or you can do this through verbalizing and socializing through those ideas with other people, right? Through other people, basically. So, and a lot of the learning that takes place, like for example, in younger years, like with infants and babies and kids, is social, right? It's with mom, dad, with friends, neighbors, whatever, right? Teachers. Laughter also diffuses tension. So again, that hostility, that anxiety, that tension that is felt, especially when you're new somewhere, right? Excuse me. But my question here is, why is there so much tension in the first place, right? Historically, people I think in the past didn't have that, didn't get anxious when they had to make a speech or things like that, right? That's like more of a in these last like 20 years, right? We've come up with so many diseases and mental disorders. So also people get emotional when they laugh. This is an interesting fact because so when you get emotional, that also helps you to associate things and this is not to say that you can't be logical and learn things, because I think you can, but I think emotion also helps you to learn and retain content and concepts and ideas and basically lessons. So when you laugh, you get emotional. Laughing, like crying, is an emotional response, completely emotional, irrational, right? And this helps you take in more information. It makes you more open, right? So I think that's beneficial. But on the downside, professionalism is now less serious, right? It's more informal. People strive to be more friendly, and which I think it doesn't really happen. But that's at least what they appear to be doing, right? Or what they say they're doing. So at the end of the day, what do I think about all this? Well, the point I'm trying to make is that there's so much need for flexibility, right? And this forces leaders to be charming, basically, right? Which makes charming leaders, or leaders that can make you laugh, feel good, it makes those leaders, those teachers, those presenters, those TED talkers, those whatever, those celebrities, it makes them more influential, right? And this can be bad because they can be bad people. They can be talking about bad ideas, or unbeneficial ideas, right? But since they're charming, since they're making you laugh, right, since they get you from the emotional, they appeal to the pathos, to the emotional dimension of your humanity, you fall for that trap, right? So that's where I think you need to bring in logic. You need to bring in your own criteria, which could be wrong. We could both be wrong, both sides, or both right, or whatever, one right, one wrong. That doesn't matter. The thing here is to have your own way of thinking, right? Your own criteria, basically, at the end of the day. And don't fall for these like charming traps, which again have to do with like making people laugh, which is silly, right? At the end of the day. So yeah, just a little bit of food for thought. Thought I'd talk about this topic. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one. All right, peace.